They're coming to get you. They're coming for you, Barbara.
They're coming to get you.
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Hello and welcome back to They're Coming to Get You. I'm one of your co-hosts, Brent, joined by
Gavin Eddings. What's going on, Brent? How are you?
I just want to apologize to your mom and the listeners' moms and my mom. Hand me a Kleenex.
I just wanted to make a documentary. I never meant for anybody to get hurt.
Just want to make movies, Gavin. That's what I want. Want to make movies.
Oh man, this was a trip down memory lane for me, because we if you haven't figured out, we are talking about the 1999 absolute phenomenon known as the Blair Witch Project. Which what was your opinion going into watching this movie?
I had done a rewatch a couple of years ago. If it was like the 20th anniversary, I don't remember what it was, but I was like, man, I was like, this is not good. But it was, I had seen it when it first came out, and then I just hadn't watched it. So I did the rewatch a couple of years ago, and I was like, this is just a lot of screaming. But this time I enjoyed it so much more for some reason.
Okay, so my first time watching it was my parents rented it back in October of 99 when it came out on VHS after it had come out the summer prior.
They found the footage at Blockbuster.
They found the footage at Blockbuster, and they had at least 75 copies of the footage. It was very strange how they just kept making copies of it.
Every movie is found footage, technically, if you just find the footage.
But we rented it, and there was like this huge aura about the Blair Witch Project being like the scariest movie of all time and just being terrifying. So I was really scared to watch it. Then we settled down and we watched it, and we all collectively as a family, even at 11 years old, when it was over, said that was dumb as shit. That was nothing. And so I had not watched it until this past Monday for over 20 years. So I thought maybe the conditions that I watched it in the first time weren't ideal. Maybe if I watched it in a dark theater or something, it might be more scary. So we made sure we turned off all the lights, had the surround sound going, just had the TV on. And after watching it 20 years later under the ideal circumstances, still don't think it's that great. I appreciate it and how just ahead of its time it is, which we'll get into. But it builds to a jump scare that never happens, which is disappointing.
I that's what I like about it, is it doesn't show anything, but I like this movie, but I think it's definitely it's along the lines of Texas Chainsaw Massacre with an assault on the senses. And by that I mean there's a lot of screaming. A lot of it's when Heather I wrote a Blair Witch drinking game, and whenever she just starts to get that scream, and even like producer wife was next to me for part of this viewing, and she was like, can we turn this down a little bit? This is like a lot.
If I never hear the names Heather, Josh, or Mike ever again, it will be too soon. Most of the dialogue in this movie is just Josh, where are you, Josh? Okay, Mike, stop being a dick, Mike. All right, Heather, where's the map? The map, Heather? Like, you don't have to address everybody by their first name the entire time.
Where's the map, man? And this is what I remember what I was going to say. This was one of like the 3 movies that my mom wouldn't let me see just based off hearing. It was more of a language thing, even though my dad was as bad as this movie or worse when it came to swearing.
Yeah.
But it was like the movie Christmas Story where the dad can swear, but don't you dare swear type thing.
Oh, yeah.
It was this movie, The Blair Witch. It was a scary movie because I remember we started to watch that, and like one of the first scenes is like the guy getting a blowjay in the back of a car. And she was like, nope. And I was like, thank God, I don't want to watch this with my mom anyway.
I hope they turn it off due to the swearing and not the sweet beads they're getting right now.
And then the other one was South Park, the movie, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Mhm.
And really, I didn't have a child, I didn't have a childhood. Period. Gavin is what I'm saying. I was acting on sitcoms, but no, like I didn't have a sheltered childhood. I was a good kid, so I got to do whatever I wanted, pretty much, But
Yeah.
there was like, my mom had heard things about these movies, and it's just like, she said no, but eventually I did see it, and it scared me back then when I first saw it. And the other thing that scared me is my brother. Thanks for bringing him up.
Absolutely.
He's
How's he doing, by the way? Is he doing well?
No, not really. He's still hanging out with Mike and everybody else in the mansion out in the woods. It was one of those where that we knew it was fake, right? It's not a real movie, but my brother did tell me that the stuff in black and white was the real found footage, and they just built the other footage around it. Which, in hindsight, how do you get a guy that looks exactly like another guy in the movie, where it's like the guy in the store and they're like, we're talking about the Blair Witch, and they're like, oh, that old story, and then that cuts to him out front in the black and white thing. And then you're like, that's the same guy, but it's in my, as my little kid brain, I'm like, oh shit, the ending of this movie in black and white, that's real.
Yeah, this movie being billed, I think this movie is only successful because it had such a good marketing campaign. I think if this had just released without all the extra stuff that's going on, I think it would have just flopped and nobody would have cared. But because it had this huge viral marketing campaign before viral marketing campaigns were even remotely invented yet, that's why people were so into it. And that's what I appreciate about it. Like, I don't love the movie. I don't think it's the best thing. I don't think it's very good. But I do appreciate the links they went to. They not only built a website for this movie, which, I mean, websites back then took forever to load. They were shittily put together, unless you were the Space Jam 1996 website, which was a wonderful internet relic. They built a website, they built a lore, they did stuff like uploading Heather's journals, like journal entries, so that you could, if you didn't get enough from the Blair Witch, you could like go in and fill in the blanks of how they were feeling, what their emotional state was during this entire process of filming this documentary before they went missing. So to give that extra level of immersion in 1999 was crazy. It's crazy. And that's what, and then to like make the actors kind of hide out and put up missing posters and have them use their real names so that they can be like, oh yeah, they are really missing. And I thought for a long time it was real. I thought it was like a lot of people are like, oh, they're releasing this found footage. This sounds real scary. It got so bad and like so real that people actually sent Heather's mother condolence cards, sending condolences about like their missing daughter. So that's what I truly appreciate about it. I think it's a very original, great idea to build a horror movie on. I just think that the execution wasn't my favorite.
They even had did you watch or get a chance to watch that supplemental material, the Curse of the Blair Witch?
I did not. I did not ever watch it. I did go online though and watch some behind the scenes stuff and like some theories and things. But what did Curse of the Blair Witch say? Well,
it's kind of it's got like Heather's grandpa, and he's like, she'd be sitting on my lap at like just like stuff that a real documentary would have. And if they're just, I think this was on MTV. It's got girlfriends and brothers and stuff on this, and then it goes into the lore of the Blair Witch. And because it first started out and it was like a professor of Heather, and even when I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is a making of, this is not what I wanted. And then I realized it's the Curse of the Blair Witch. So from the jump, it got me as far as like, because I thought this was like an extra making of the Blair Witch and not the thing I was looking for, which is the Curse of the Blair Witch. So from the jump, it's a straight documentary style. And like, if you just saw that and like without there was the internet, obviously, with this website, but like you weren't reading a post from a guy that in San Diego that was like, bro, this movie sucks, it's fake or whatever. It was word of mouth type stuff. So if you saw this plus the movie, it would, word of mouth. You're like, oh, this is real. Like, what a brilliant way to market this.
Yeah, and for me, they hired and did like fake newscasts, like saying these people are missing. It's just the different levels, because you can throw up some stuff on a website and be like, these are journals, but to like go the extra length to like film extra footage outside of your very low budget movie to get like news anchors to say like they're still missing, and to build this entire lore behind it, it's truly I think it's the true invention of the viral marketing campaign that movies later would go on to do, like Cloverfield. Cloverfield had like a really weird viral marketing campaign back in 2007 building up to that movie, where you had to go online and they're like, here's like a Slurpee knockoff that if you went to like the Slurpee website, you learned a little bit more about what happened in Cloverfield and stuff like that. So Blair Witch, to me, not great, very, very important to the horror genre as a whole. And this, we're not even talking about like the movie yet. This is just the marketing, but the found footage concept, that is a staple to this day of the horror genre. Blair Witch Project walked so Paranormal Activity could spooky ghost run.
Well, and there's the I watched it in prep for this movie, and I can't remember, of course, what it's called. It's the found footage, I think, phenomenon. It's a did you watch that? It's a whole documentary about found footage.
I have not. I have not. I do like for the most part, I do like the found footage genre.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool. Some are better than others. I know that somebody recommended me the Poughkeepsie tapes. Have you ever seen that one? That
was featured in this, but I haven't seen it yet.
The Poughkeepsie tapes is one that people will say it's so scary, man. I didn't like it. But I just wanted to bring up the Poughkeepsie tapes because somebody like, it's so scary, it's so underground. I was like, this is also boring. Why? Why are you making such boring found footage movies?
Well, that documentary is called The Found Footage Phenomenon. It's available on Shudder.
Okay,
right. You can probably watch it other places, but yeah, I watch it. It's about 90 minutes, so it covers the Blair Witch heavily. It features one of the directors, Eduardo Sanchez, on it, and it's like I guess a movie that was made before this that came around the same time was the Last Broadcast.
Okay, I've not seen that.
So that was kind of like, and they were talking about how like you can have something in the zeitgeist that this was going to happen, but it was kind of who gets to it first. And the Blair Witch was more well known and stuff like that. But then it goes back to like, of course, that this is not the first found footage film, but they say like one of the more significant ones, and you could consider the first horror found footage is Cannibal Holocaust, which there is that element of we found this footage and now the crew is dead type thing. Did you ever see Cannibal Holocaust at all?
I have not seen Cannibal Holocaust. It's not that I'm against watching. I just heard very disturbing things about the making of the actual movie, which is kind of put me off. Like I guess there was real animal abuse and things like that.
Animal death, dude. Like they are just straight killing these animals, and like the deed is done, so you can't really undo. It's like Friday the 13th. They killed the snake, and it's one thing if they're like, oh, let's rip this turtle apart and then eat it. I'm like, okay, that's better than just straight killing it. But there's a lot of graphic imagery. It's a cannibal movie. And if you're not into that, like graphic imagery and real death of animals, I would say skip that. But there's definitely, these could be like companion pieces as far as people in the woods and the jungle found footage type movies.
And what I found so interesting was the directors of the Blair Witch Project came up with the idea because they felt like horror had gotten very stale, and they were finding out that they were being more scared by like paranormal documentaries and like hunting for Bigfoots and like ghost hunting documentaries, that they decided to take that idea and make the Blair Witch Project. And just, I got to give them credit for like building this lore of the Blair Witch, because I still have no idea what it's supposed to be. I've seen the first sequel, Book of Shadows, which we can briefly.
We don't need to, Gavin.
I remember getting more scared by Blair Witch 2 than the Blair Witch Project. It's not a very good movie, but it scared me because it was just a weirder version of it, I guess. So it's not good, but it did scare me more.
And it's also, I've always called just this movie Blair Witch.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're doing research, it's the full Blair Witch Project. And then if you just type in Blair Witch, you're getting that sequel that we got a few years ago.
Yeah, in 2016, which I also didn't see, but I heard was just awful, just not great, not good at all. Like
I've only seen it once, and it was in the drive-in. And I don't know if I've said it on this show or not, but I like going to the drive-in. But horror movies sometimes aren't the best.
Yeah,
to see at the drive, because there's so many dark moments in a horror movie that you need a better screen than the drive-in can provide. So
yeah,
I thought it was fine. I don't remember much of it, so yeah, I can't tell you one way or the other to check that out. But I will say, like, and like the research and rewatching this is like half true crime, which is such a phenomenon right now of like of the Blair Witch, the curse of the Blair Witch. And like, if you just took out the Blair Witch element of it and these 3 people went missing, but we found the footage, that's a viral true crime podcast waiting to happen, right?
Oh, absolutely. And another thing that can be said about this coming out in 1999 is that you are able to lie to people easier for longer, where you can say, oh, these people are missing, we don't know where they are. Now if you make a movie and you're like, they're missing, you're like, no, they're at the grocery store, I saw them, there's a TMZ is like, hey, what are you doing here? Thought you were missing, what's going on? You would just have them in the store, like with a camera in their face. So we weren't at cell phone camera level yet, so you could lie longer about them being missing. As far as the actual movie, because we've talked a lot about like around it, the movie, it's only 3 actors who improv'd most of their dialogue. And I think that's one part I did like about it. I think as it being scary, I don't think so. But as far as like the dialogue and feeling like these are real people bickering and arguing in the woods because they're lost. And Brent, where's the car? Where is the car? Is it south? Is it north? I felt like that was, because they improvised so much, that felt very real. It felt like I was watching a documentary. So that element did work for me, where I felt like I was watching 3 people have arguments in the woods.
And I would say, Gavin, that we just need to keep following the river is what we need to do. Following the creek.
We just gotta follow the creek. Listen, we'll just follow the creek. We gotta keep going. We're gonna hit something eventually.
And I gotta be at work tomorrow at 9 a.m.
My girlfriend's gonna wonder where I'm at. Like, listen, people know we're out here. They're gonna know we're out here. Where's the map, Heather? I kicked it in the creek.
It in the creek. I think the acting is great, especially when you know how they filmed it. Like this movie was written, and we'll just do the directors, Daniel Myrick and then Eduardo Sanchez, released July 14th, 1999. So we're at the time of this recording, we're recording this on July 15th. So we just missed an anniversary there, Gavin.
Oh man, that sucks.
Budget, I saw a lot of numbers. We'll just call it $300,000. And I think the actual shooting was way less, but then you got to put in the advertising and stuff like that or whatever. But box office was $248 million. And everything that I read about the filming of this, like it was like a 35-page treatment, maybe even less. I don't remember, but it's like no dialogue. They just need to set up the scenarios
and have them get there.
They're just having them walk around the woods with, like, they're watching them from afar, the directors and producer, whoever's out there, right? Yeah. And giving them GPS coordinates to get the next batch of food, and then to get their roles. So like, I think each one was given, here's how you act for this next day or these next scenes. So it's very much an improv game, like a horror improv game of play it this way, you play it this way. And that when you realize it's that, I think that's how I started to appreciate this movie so much more. It's like, they're just doing this on their own. Like it could have been not what they wanted, and they couldn't have done anything. Were they just going to pop out of the bushes and expose yourself?
And They gave them GPS coordinates, and then the actors filmed everything. Like they taught them how to use these actual film cameras, like the 16mm camera and the handheld on the high 8 camera. But they were told where to go. They filmed themselves. And this was it was an 8-day shoot. Now, movies take a lot longer than that, but this was 8 days of full immersion in the woods. So it was like no real breaks. I'm sure they took breaks to eat and stuff, but it's like you were just living in this character for 8 days in the actual woods for 8 days. They talked about the audition process where like 2,000 people showed up to audition for this movie that they put an ad in one of the magazines out in Hollywood. So they had this huge casting call, and they were like, if you don't like being in the woods, you need to leave. Like if you don't like being outdoors, if you don't have improv, this is not going to be for you. So they found these 3 people who really play well off each other, and like you said, it's an improv game for 8 days. And they would do, and the producers stuff, like they were off in the distance, just like watching. They weren't like saying roll or action or cut. It was just you lived it for that 8 days. Then they had 20 hours of footage that they trimmed down into 80 minutes, which that has to be a colossal task.
Well, and I was gonna, because I looked it up because I didn't remember the number, but I also feel like this movie could even be shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and not that I think, like, I'm just thinking if you streamline it even more, like I'm not upset that if a movie was an hour long.
If you know? That's what I thought made Host really work. Was it was a tight concept of the movie is only 58 minutes long, and that's a perfect length. It gives you they pack so much dread and horror into 58 minutes. There were times like Blair Witch is only 80 something minutes, but it gets boring and a little long, if that makes sense, because you're like, okay, they're still screaming in the woods. I feel like some of this could have been sped up a little bit. Because I was like, okay, let's wrap it up, because I had seen it before, like I said, 20 years prior, but I knew that once they get to the house, we're almost done. But I was like, when are we getting to the house? When is Josh going to go missing? When are they getting the bundle of sticks? Like, let's hit these beats a little faster. But I don't know if theaters would actually want to show a movie that short, or if there's some sort of restriction. But I think if Blair Witch came out today, you could make it like a hard 60 minutes, put it on Shudder, and people would love it a lot more, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is you got to have at least 80 minutes or whatever to, a feature length is an hour, but like if you're asking somebody to pay money, I even myself, I'm like, it's got to be at least 80. Let's give these people their money's worth, But I feel like this, I love the marketing. I love the way they shot the movie. I don't hate the beats in the movie, but I think it could have used more significant beats as opposed to them fighting, more.
It's like I was kind of live tweeting a little bit on my Gavin Loves Horror Twitter, which is my YouTube channel, about this movie is just people screaming at each other in the woods. And to be fair, I would be Mike, because after like a day and a half, I'd be like, I hate this shit. I would like to find the car now. I also have to be at work at 9 a.m. the next morning. I would like to go home now. So, but there's like that scene where they're like slowly trying to cross a log. It's like, I don't need to see this in real time. I don't need to see this in real time.
Yeah, unless they do drop, what a big camera into the water. Like, I wish they would have had maybe more horror beats. As it find more, I'm not saying find more of the symbols or whatever. I'm just saying, give me something similar to that.
But there's a part of me that the worst part is knowing we got to get the camera back. They're going to need it back. So not only are they missing and probably murdered, they're also accruing a lot of late fees for expensive camera equipment.
Yeah.
Like, I think his parents have to pay that now. I don't think they're going to understand. It's lost. They're going to replace it.
My mom and dad are going to be so pissed at me, which is not even the same movie. That's Scream. But
we did open up by doing a parody of, I think is the most famous scene in this movie, with the close-up shot of Heather crying and things. And that's a scene where if you've never seen Blair Witch Project, you know what it's from, because as we talked before, it's been parodied so much.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like for like I don't know if that was written in the direction, but like what a unique way to film that. And like again, like it's one of these things where they do brilliant things in a movie where I'm like, I like everything about the movie, but I'd rather learn more about the movie than watch it again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm
And I don't hate it, but I just
Mhm.
watched it twice in prep. So give me another 10 years and I'll love to watch it again, you know?
So yeah, that shot, it's been parodied. I know, I think one of the scary movies had it because like it just having like the snot drip out of her nose. I think Simpsons probably did it as well. But go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, but it's such a good scene, and it's like she could have easily held the camera further out on her like a regular selfie, but having it that close and that kind of washed out and bright, and just focusing on her eye and her snot and crying, it's almost like she is like holding it so close as like a security blanket. She doesn't want to like hold the camera out further so that like there's no entity in the background that she can see. It feels almost like a security thing. So that shot and that monologue, everybody can parody it. It's still a great monologue, and it's still a great shot, and some really creative camera work by the actress Heather.
Yeah, it's to have it not be perfect, there's flaws in it. And that again, that's where you get the reality, like from a guy who, you know, me doing satire videos and so many people thinking they're real. I purposely had shitty lighting.
Yeah.
Like, just make it look almost half garbage.
I mean, you say that. I think you were really trying, but you just lucked out. You're like, I'm really trying to make this look nice, but it looks terrible. So I'm going to say it's on purpose.
And sometimes that's happened too, Gavin. I know you're joking, but like that's happened. Where it's like, but it's like, you know, when you see a real thing, there are flaws in it, and the guy doesn't restart the video because he flubbed a word. Like that stuff being left in is real. Like that's how real people talk, you know?
Yeah. That's why we don't edit this podcast at all. We leave everything in.
We're Monday Night Raw over here.
We ain't gonna be censored. No one can censor us.
Well, let's talk about the characters. We got Heather, just from the jump, like that first shot of her. I wrote down she looks like an adult Greta Thunberg. And then I said that, and then doing the rewatch, producer wife is with me, and she's like, she looks like that girl. And I was like, Greta Thunberg. She's like, yeah, that girl. So I guess I wasn't the only one thinking that, but like her character, and there's a scene in the movie that I want to talk about, but her character's like, got to get the film at all cost. She's the driving force behind it, and even in the movie, she's like, this is all I have left. Like she's going to literally die doing this.
And I think the entire thing was for like a college class. I think it's like she wants a grade. She wants a grade real bad.
Yeah.
So
it reminds me of the remake of King Kong, the one with Jack Black, where like he's filming, and the giant, you know, King Kong is just knocking people off logs and stuff, and he's just everything couldn't be going worse, and this dude still films. Like that's what it, like that type of driving force, especially you need that person in a found footage movie. If nobody was, if people were like you and me, where they're like, oh, it rained real bad, maybe we shouldn't film today, and we just go home. You know, you need the Heather to be like, no, we're getting the shots.
It sure is hot out here. And be like, no, get the shot.
Yeah,
it is a wonderful 70-degree day. we got to get this.
Yeah, it is. And that's what they talked about in the found footage phenomenon. Is like that's the thing about found footage, is if you're going to be the type that holds the camera the whole time. So many of the movies that I do watch, I'm like, just put the camera down. I am everybody else in the movie that's like, quit holding that fucking camera, you know, like
hit them with it. Hit them.
You need that person in a found footage movie, otherwise it doesn't work, you know.
I just imagine a movie like Paranormal Activity where like one spooky thing's happen, they're like, we should stop filming now. It's clearly an attention whore doing it for fame. If we just stop filming it, it will stop doing tricks to us.
Yeah, it's a demon trying to go viral.
It's a real exhibitionist demon. It's like, you got that camera on, maybe I'll make you stand next to the bed all weird like.
We got Josh. How do you feel about Josh?
Josh is every guy I've ever seen working at a gas station. He is just long-haired, bearded, just chill. There is some stuff in Heather's journals where she doesn't know if it's hinted at that her and Josh maybe dated for a bit. She definitely doesn't know Mike. So that kind of, when you know that, it makes the dynamic a little bit different. I think Josh is fine. I think Josh is the most grounded character between Heather and Mike. Josh was the character I liked the most.
And he, like, the scene I want to talk about where there's role reversals, but like even from the jump, he's the peacekeeper. He's like, come on, man. That's the drinking game, by the way, is whenever Josh says man, you got to drink. But I did write that he looks like a great value Jason Mewes from Jay and Silent Bob. And Jason
Mewes is the great value Jason Mewes.
Yeah, he looks like the store brand of a store brand. This, I can't remember what the guy's real name is, but he's gone on to be in other movies. Joshua Leonard.
So all their names are their real names that they used in the movie, and that actually the director wanted that so that if you like search them on the internet, they came up that way.
Mm-hmm.
Heather Donahue said though that later on it did hurt her getting work because people Google Heather Donahue and the Blair Witch would always be associated with her. So the director does regret having them use their real names.
Well, I'm sure if he made that $250 million, he doesn't really care either way.
He's like, you know what? It's fine. We're good.
Josh Leonard, he's been in he was on Bates Motel, but he was on one of my favorite horror movies that probably people aren't aware of or haven't seen, called Unsane.
Okay.
That's one of my
have
favorites.
Not seen that.
Shot on an iPhone. Directed by a guy that everybody knows, Steven Soderbergh.
Okay. Does he have it in his contract? He's like, if you're gonna film me, has to be on a high camcorder or an iPhone. We're not using real cameras, buddy. I can only be filmed on portable media.
Well, it's like you really can't tell that it was shot on an iPhone. Of course, when you put all the lenses and everything, and you have a guy that's Steven Soderbergh, it's like, yeah, of course it doesn't look like it was shot on the thing that it was shot on.
Like everything that is in and I was, while watching the Blair Witch Project, I turned to Stephanie, my producer girlfriend. I go, man, all the, like, our phone shoots better quality than what they did back in 1999.
Yeah, and the one of the commentaries or that found footage thing, the director was like, we gave them the best quality cameras that a consumer would buy. You know, like you would have that one that, like, I don't know if you saw like the actual big ass camera that Josh is carrying around the whole time, but it's like that's like a Warner Brothers cartoon where, like, if Bugs Bunny's the director, it's just a huge ass camera.
Yeah, he has to crank it up between scenes. Like, Heather, say that again.
Keep rolling. And I felt like
good.
Like when it came out the way that, and I do have it on. I did watch it on Blu-ray, but it still looked shitty. But that's part of the charm of this movie, you know, is how it looks. And I felt like I was watching either like a movie version of the CKY videos. Did you ever watch those?
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with CKY, it's like the group, like Bam Margera's group that eventually joined Jackass, but they did stuff before they became Jackass, and just like stunt videos and stuff. But it was very much that of like, they had the best camcorder they could get, and it was so grainy, and like, especially with, I don't know if the quality of it made it feel more 90s, or if like there was a lot of flannel, like kind of grungy, like this movie watching was very nostalgic. I'm not nostalgic for this movie. I'm just nostalgic for how it looks and how it feels wardrobe wise. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just nostalgic for them low gas prices. Am I right? Am I right?
True.
No. Yeah, it does feel very 90s, and it does look like shit now, but that adds to it being found footage.
Mhm.
This is a case where, and I am against, in some regards, the constant updating and redigitizing and re-releasing in the newest format of movies.
I heard they were going to put Ewoks in the updated version.
Is that the
Gavin.
Blair Witch? Is that the
Yeah.
Blair Witch? And they gave them all walkie-talkies.
Walkie.
But I'm kind of against that. I think Halloween, when you make it in 4K, I think it loses a little bit of what makes it scary. You're like, I can see every seam on Michael Myers' mask now. I didn't need this.
I own it, and I think it looks great, but I don't disagree with you either.
It's like, I feel like I can see him in the background a lot better now. Like, he's not really blending into the darkness anymore. He's less the shape and more just the man standing there.
Well, it really takes away from the Astroglide camera they were using, Gavin.
Yeah, it doesn't slide in quite as well, and they really cut the sound out of it really getting lubed up, so it's really upsetting to me. But the movie looking shitty does really add to it. So if they had, like, I don't think they even could, because they shot on probably like the high 8. I had a high 8 camera before, and it's just like these small little digital tapes that you have to like pop in and out, but there's no real way to like upscale those. So if they're like coming soon, the 4K version of the Blair Witch, I'm not gonna watch that because I don't need to hear them screaming in 4K.
How good's it gonna be?
Yes, but like, hey, is the 4K version the one where we see the actual witch? Did you put that in there?
I don't want to see the witch. I don't need to see it.
Yeah, so they were supposed to see the witch at one point in the scene when they're attacking the tent and they're running in the woods.
What the fuck is that? Yeah, right.
Yeah,
like that part.
Yeah. So what the fuck is that when they're running in there? So there was one of the directors or producers was dressed in like a witch outfit or something spooky, and the person recording just forgot to pan over to like get that in the shot. So then they just didn't have it.
But I guess it's like if you knew that information, the witch is there, but we didn't even see it. I still like that, and I can't imagine. Whenever I see a monster, it's never as good as what I even envisioned, or maybe I didn't even try to envision it. It's never as good. So I'm good. I don't need the witch. Even when they came out with like the McFarlane NECA toys or whatever they were, and there's like 3 different versions of the witch, I'm like, I don't want any of it. I don't want to see any of this.
Do you remember that episode of Doug on Nickelodeon when he's too afraid to see a movie?
The zipper in the back.
It's like, you can see the zipper in the back. That's what I think of whenever something like, it doesn't look as good. Be like, yeah, Doug told us this back in '93.
Yeah,
you can see the zipper in the back. So yeah, but Josh was the peacekeeper. What did you think of Mike?
Mike is in straight denial from the jump, like, and like arguably just how he looks. It looks like he would be the toughest guy out of all of them. And yeah, he's just like, even when they're like, "Did you hear that?" He's like, "You guys are crazy." Like he's got headphones on, like clearly just trying not to listen to any of it. Yeah, and that was the other part of the drinking game, is whenever like Mike goes from just talking to a yell, like singing for no reason. Like I like Mike's character.
Speaking of Mike, so you thought Josh was great value Jason Mewes. You thought that Heather was Greta Thunberg. I thought Mike was the lead singer of the Bloodhound Gang. The whole movie. I was like, when's he gonna tell us to sweat baby? Come on, tell us that we're gonna do it like mammals on the Discovery Channel.
Well, they are in the woods, so
I know. I could not unsee that the entire movie. I was like, hey, that's the Bloodhound Gang guy, right?
The one scene I wanted to talk about, because I never really picked up onto it till I was just watching again for the first viewing of the 2 that I had for this. But did you like the role reversal of when Josh has the camera and he's really like hounding Heather of like, I want to make movies, Heather. Here's your
Mhm.
motivation. You're lost in the woods. You're starving. There's a fucking witch after you. She's still making movies. You know, like that. So he's playing Heather, hounding Heather,
Mhm.
and Heather's like, turn it off, turn off the camera. And then Mike is playing the peacekeeper. He's like, come on, guys. Like that, they must have just been given that direction in their notes that day, because like their characters switch, like not their characters, but like you can see how the roles have reversed.
Mhm. And I saw somewhere, I think it was on IMDb, Heather had talked about she based her character in this movie based on a director she had in like some production where when everything was going right, they were great, but then when things didn't go according to plan, they just lost their mind and had no way of like calming down or had no sort of backup plan. So when things are right, you see her very much in charge, but the minute they get a little lost, she crumbles and just tries to keep being like but just can't fake it, to the point where she's like, no, it's okay, we just got to go in this direction for another 2 hours, and
Yeah.
then 2 hours go by, it's okay, and then just like breaking down and like slowly like being more and more over their heads. Like, how big are these woods also, where just walk in one direction, you'll probably hit a highway at some point.
Yeah. Well, even like,
Mhm.
I think that one night I read that like they got drenched and they weren't going to sleep in wet clothes, but they couldn't find the director, whatever. So they just found a house and stayed at that house, I think.
That seems even more sketchy. Is it the house in the movie? They're like,
Yeah.
we found this abandoned shack. He stood in the corner the whole time.
Come on
And-
in, dearies.
Oh, good. This bog witch is welcoming us in.
Here's the Blair Witch drinking game I came up with. Whenever
Okay.
Heather goes into like a screech,
Mhm.
whenever Heather alludes to knowing where they are, just from the jump, she's like, I know exactly where we are. I'm like, and knowing it, you know, after seeing it a couple times, you're like, you got no idea. Like from the jump, anytime somebody says fuck, there's so many fucks, and I'm no prude, Gavin. We know this, but man, there's just anytime like it's like kids that just learn how to swear.
Yeah, there's a lot. They're like, if they had written the actual lines out for it, it would have been a lot of F words.
Yeah.
Just
And again,
the most.
I don't mind fuck. I'm just saying there's a lot. So even if they said instead of fuck, they said banana, I'd be like, there's a lot of bananas in this movie, you know, like.
So I'm on IMDb right now for profanity under Parents Guide. It is severe. The word hell is said twice, shit is said 36 times, damn is said once, goddamn is said twice.
And there's that
Ass.
one by Josh where he's like, God damn.
He really gets
And-
he gets all of it, like all of it. The word ass is said 9 times, piss is said once, got to have piss to represent. And then there are 154 uses of the word fuck, many clearly spoken and many others screamed out.
Yeah.
So
And
that
this is an 82-minute movie.
so that is more than 2 fucks per minute. That is almost 2 fucks per minute throughout this movie, where like I said, I'm no prude, but it becomes excessive after a while. You're like, this Tarantino movie in the woods is really starting to get to me.
Apparently, I just Googled movie with the most fucks. Number one with 935 is SwearNet the movie. And we were talking about that's the Trailer Park Boys.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking before the show how you're not
Yeah.
a fan of the Trailer Park Boys. Before we turn the mics on. Also, fuck, a documentary on the word. I feel like that shouldn't count. That's about fuck, you know. The Wolf of Wall Street had 569. Summer of Sam had 435. 435. So even these are low numbers compared to, or high numbers compared to the Blair Witch.
Yeah, I think because the movie is so short and it's so frequent, I think that's why maybe it seems like there's more.
Casino has 422. Uncut Gems has 408.
Yeah,
Right
Uncut Gems. Uncut Gems, I remember being like, this is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, these are rookie numbers. You got to put these. Goodfellas was 300. So Yeah, these are rookie number, but even though that's a lot, like for two a minute, those are good numbers though.
Yeah.
The other one is whenever Josh says, "Man, you got a drink," and then I already said it when Mike yells or goes from talking to a yell.
You're gonna try to. Are you trying to kill people with this? Just alcohol poisoning, just mainlining it. You're like, we've killed 17 people.
That's
because
true.
It's so much. It is so much.
Either you can, I could really go for a drink right now, or my mom's mashed potatoes and some ass. That's one of my favorite quotes in the movie. Go for my mom's mashed potatoes and some ass right about now.
So let's talk about this really, because we've kind of discussed how the movie is. They out making the documentary, and then they get lost in the woods. I like the idea of the Blair Witch scaring people with arts and crafts the whole movie. Just like the stone piles, they're like, oh, the stone pile. Like, squirrels could have done that. You don't know, just some big buff squirrels who want to lift. Then they walk into they're like, who made this? What are those? It's like, these are some sticks. You are scared of these sticks, which if I was in the woods and I stumbled upon the sticks, I would also nope the fuck right out. I'd be like, nope, sticks don't look like that. This is clearly a bog witch. This is somebody who does not want me here.
Well, and I wrote down kind of the gimmicks that they use for the scares. They got like you said, the pile of rocks. There's the symbols hanging. The Blair Witch symbols, which it's weird, like a movie has a symbol, because there's not like a lot of movies that like would like have a symbol attached there. Besides, it's like Halloween 6, where it's the mark of thorn or whatever,
which is also a line and a triangle. I like when somebody's like, this is a symbol for this movie, and it's like the most basic rudimentary shapes. The Curse of Thorn is a line and a triangle, and I know people who have it like tattooed on them.
So, on their arms. We got rocks slamming and twigs breaking, but that's like if you don't hear that in the woods in a scary movie, then you're messing up. That's like a staple. It has to happen. Stuff off in the distance, and even when you're real camping and there's like other campers around, you're like, well, somebody's about to get got.
Like, oh no. And it's usually like a squirrel or an animal, but when you're in the Blair Witch woods, you're like, nope. That's the witch.
You've hyped yourself up enough to know that we're in the lair of the witch. So, and then the scariest thing to me was the kids in the night, hearing the kids out like laughing and stuff. That was for me an oh shit moment.
See,
in this movie.
I don't even remember that part. You
got to listen really well.
Okay, I don't listen so good.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear that part. Is that when they're in the tent at night, or?
Yeah, and that's the thing is like their gimmicks that they go to bed and something happens. They go to bed and something happens. I would have liked a daytime scare. Like there's a movie that I'll recommend later called The Ritual, but there's like a moment where there's like a deer strung up, almost crucified. And like that would have enhanced this movie so much, of just to see a mutilated animal. That type of thing. But yeah, those kids just laughing, children, anytime there's children involved, laughing in the dark, no thank you.
Yeah, there is a lot of kids laughing in darkness, and just, I mean, when you have such a low blow, but you have to use what you got, which is sometimes recordings of children that are laughing and being real creepy. And the big scare, and we've talked about this a lot, this Mandela effect of thinking we've seen stuff in movies when they don't. I watched this with Stephanie, and she's like, yeah, because you really don't see the witch until to the end for that big jump scare. So, and then I was like, oh yeah, you do see her briefly, don't you? And then it doesn't pop up. And we had convinced ourselves that there's like I thought there was maybe a glimpse of her when the camera drops by at the very, very end, but there's not. There's no witch in this movie. It just, they get to the creepy house. Josh goes missing first, and then the witch or whoever sends a nice care package of a tongue and some teeth, finally gift wrapped in sticks,
and his shirt,
and his shirt. So they go that night, and this is like 3 days later. So they're going like 3 days without any kind of real food or water. They found one cigarette though in the bottom of their bag, so they're good.
Found some in the bottom of my pack. Like his character, like he's just like a kid that's like, well, it's okay, we're gonna make it. But all he did was just started smoking again.
It's like the witch was trying to get you to quit.
Yeah.
And you find one more at the bottom of your pack.
This was an elaborate hoax to get you to before Shantex or whatever, whatever it was called. They had the Blair Witch smoking, stop smoking thing.
But they get to the house, and getting to the house almost feels, I like it being the final set piece, but I guess it's supposed to be the lair of the Blair Witch, but it just looks like a regular dilapidated house. It doesn't look like a spooky cabin. It looks more just like a rundown house, which I thought the Blair Witch would have a spookier hideout.
And to me, I don't see it like this is the lair. I just think this is where she chose to end them.
Okay, then that's a good perspective on that. And then you have Heather goes upstairs. Mike hears Josh in the basement. You hear like Josh crying for help or somebody crying for help. And then Heather goes down the stairs and then just gets whammied by somebody. She goes down. Camera goes down. She sees that Mike standing in the corner. Which did you get more deep into like the lore of the Blair Witch of like what she does? Because they kind of talk about it in the documentary at the beginning, where she would kill people but make somebody stare at the wall while she did it.
Yeah, and I think even when they said that was more about a guy who did that because you couldn't stand to look at and by the way, that beginning part is probably my favorite part of the movie when they're talking to the townspeople, because that I love, and I don't know why I waited till this point in the show to talk about it, but like I love that world building part of them interviewing people. There's the guy that's like mom, the Mr. Potter. He said, I'm finally done, and he killed 7 children, whatever it was. And then you've got the mom with the kid where she's like, don't worry, honey, it's not true. And then she mouths to the camera, it's true. Like you're holding this child while telling the scary ass stories, and he's like, stop.
That scene, I wrote a note that said that kid straight up ate a booger. That kid picked her nose and ate a booger. And then they're like, leave it in.
Leave it. It's real.
It's a real booger.
A child would act, and then you've got Mary Brown, who is the most over the top. I saw the woman, she had horse hair, and she, like that kind of thing of just her being over the top dramatic. But it also seems very real because it's like she's kind of looking off and not looking at the camera type thing. I thought all these performances were very real.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that part of the movie so much, of them just telling stories. Oh, and then you've got the 2 guys fishing too. I forgot about that.
Those guys have a secret. They got something. No, I don't want to talk about that. And just what made it real to me is like, is it okay if we use you in a documentary? He's like, oh, I don't know. She's like, I need you to say yes.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. And I did write down there's a skinny one and a thicker one, and the skinny one's Jeffrey Dahmer with the glasses, and the other one is Al Capone. And they're just fighting like an old married couple.
I love that Al Capone and Jeffrey Dahmer can set aside the differences and come together over their love of fishing in this creek.
Yeah, but also a creek that he saw a white mist rise up from the water, just not 100 yards down that way.
And I know you're a big fan of Bigfoot stuff. So did that feel very like, I saw Bigfoot, I saw him take a shit in this?
I seen him. Yeah. Like, I like all these characters because everybody's different. And not really, besides the mom and the kid, there's no dynamic of people interacting. And the one guy's like, oh, that's bullshit. Like, I just love this part of the movie.
I wish they had done more with that. If they had done this more documentary style, like documentary, mm-hmm. I know it's supposed to be found footage where they never got to release their documentary, but if they had interspersed more of that in between to like break up the constant people yelling at each other, I think it would have been a more pleasurable experience watching it.
Maybe, yeah, where they could have, they do a big scare and then they cut to somebody, a folk people,
or like even hinting at and not making us remember from 75 minutes ago. Oh yeah, he did mention something offhand about like making him wait in the corner.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, is that the Blair Witch that did that, or is that somebody? But that part for me was my favorite as well, because it really did feel like just going around interviewing real people, and for a lot of them, they were real people in this town they were shooting at. They did have some actors who they planted as townspeople for the actors interview, and they didn't tell them they were actors. But some of those people that they talked to were just regular townspeople in this city who were kind of coached on like what to say if they were approached.
Yeah, I imagine like the guy that he's like, she's like, do you believe in the Blair Witch? And he goes, nope. And she's like, are you a Christian? He goes, yes, sir. And she goes, all right. Like that's a very like, okay, we're not going to get much from this dude here,
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that the Curse of the Blair Witch thing, that they go into the lore a lot. And then that where they found the tapes is what they say in the documentary is that the tapes were in a bag in like a hole in that house, and the house was burnt down. So that's how they came to find the footage. And even in like the police chief is like, they say it could be fake, but this is just too real to be faked footage.
Well, if a cop says it's too real,
it's got to be good. Yeah.
It's nice to the Blair Witch though to take all the film out and pack it in a hole before burning the house down. That's not like in case anybody's gonna find it, I'm just gonna pack it up real nice and say with a poster that says "Play me" on it.
Would you like to play a game?
It's like, no, Jigsaw, this is not your movie.
I also just like to picture Mike taking a piss in the corner. That's what really was happening.
He's like, Heather, I'm taking a piss.
God damn.
You and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals.
There were alternate endings on the Blu-ray copy. So would you like me to break those down for you, Gavin?
Yeah, because I watched the HBO Max version.
Okay.
So I did not get any of these. And I do have a theory that I watched afterwards, and I'll share that with you.
Okay. The alternate endings are all versions of the same thing, essentially. There's Mike facing the corner, but in around him are the hanging symbols. There's one where Mike is facing away from the corner, so you could see his face with the hanging symbols down again. There's one where Mike is just straight hanging from like a noose, and it cuts real quick from that. And then there's one where he's pretty much levitating with the symbols, and it's like if it like the option didn't say levitating ending, it would be hard for me to tell what was going on if it was just a quick cut. But those are the other four endings, and I think they chose the right one, is just to have him in the corner.
Yeah.
When you muddle it with the symbols and shit, it's too much.
Yeah, it's very subtle and a little weird. I still think it's not a very strong ending, because it leaves you going like, what? And I'm not saying every movie needs to paint it out, but when you have this movie that builds and builds and builds, you need some sort of this movie edges you the whole time, and you never get yours.
I didn't get my nut.
I didn't get to nut to my Blair Witch. Didn't get it. So it builds and builds and builds. And even I think having a glimpse of something, some sort of entity in the camera dropping, like we all thought there was to begin with, would have been something to, like, at least when you get it on home video, be like, rewind and be like, oh shit, there was something there. Now there is, because we don't see anything. This brings me into the theory I watched. There's a YouTube channel called Film Theory, and he did a 17-minute video on that there is no actual Blair Witch, and that this was a ploy for Mike and Josh to get Heather out in the woods and kill her. Have you ever seen those theories?
I kind of saw that, but I didn't really go in depth with that. But go ahead, because it's interesting. I love when people take whatever happened and then they're like, but really, here's what happened. They're playing Clue with the movie, Yeah.
So the theory is, and this is based on Heather's journals and the insinuation that maybe her and Josh had dated previously. And she says in her journals that she knew Josh, but she didn't know Mike. And like, just in the journal entries, like Mike's kind of odd, and this everything scary happening at night. And Heather's saying in her journals what like a deep sleeper she is, that the guys could have easily done all the spooky arts and crafts stuff. Like it's not hard to like set up stone piles. And if you got somebody like Heather who's already seemingly buying into all of the Blair Witch information and taking it for the gospel truth, she's gonna believe that an innocuous pile of rocks is going to be connected to the Blair Witch.
Mm-hmm.
So they could have shaken the tent. You also have Josh. That they could have hung the sticks. They all seem to be more chill about things towards the end, because there's that scene where they cross the river and they're making fun of her for her shoes being wet. And she's even like at one point, Heather goes, "Why are you guys laughing? Why are you laughing?" And that seems like that they're laughing because they're in cahoots and they've got her so scared and are just ready to kill her. There's also Mike getting rid of the map and stealing the map and throwing it into the creek so that she doesn't know where she's at. And then the final piece is Josh disappears and goes to stake out the house. And then when they go into the house, Heather goes up. I think Heather goes upstairs and Mike goes, "I'm going to the basement." He like yells where he's going, which is the clue to cue Josh to get ready to hide, because then you hear Josh's voice or whatever, so that when Heather comes down the stairs, she sees Mike, but then she's blitzed from behind by Josh, who kills her. And then they have this whole idea of the found footage so that everybody believes that they're dead, so that they can get away.
I like that theory, but also like what did she do to where these guys are willing to even fake their own death?
She cheated, Brent. She cheated. That I don't know.
You broke my fucking heart. All I wanted was my mom's mashed potatoes and a piece of ass.
And that ass, a piece of I wanted, was yours, Heather.
You.
I mean,
it is true crime. Like if you take the supernatural thing out, like I could see why people would be like, "Oh, dude!" Like even if there's no witch, people love a murder. Apparently,
we love a murder, and they love looking for these people. Yeah, but just because you can't go into the woods with 3 people and only come out with 2, so they would have to fake their own deaths. I don't really believe that. I just think it's a really fun theory.
Yeah,
that there is no witch, and they just had this elaborate scheme to cover up a murder. Which, like you said, I love getting film theories from the internet that are just so well thought out and they make logical sense. It's not like, Michael Myers actually is he's a ghost the whole time. Like, based on what? Based on what evidence?
The theory that you laid out is very Scooby-Doo-esque, by the way. We're gonna scare this lady until we actually kill her.
Zoink, Scoob! All right, guys, we gotta get her to the woods.
I do like the way they killed off people as far as like Josh, like they gave him a note and that said, when everybody goes to sleep, sneak out of the tent, and if they catch you, tell them you're gonna go take a piss. And then when he finds the directors and stuff, they're like, "Dude, you're dead." And then they took him to Denny's.
Did they really?
Yeah, and then like the other 2 got to go to Denny's at the end of the shoot.
I don't know if that's a great reward for living in the woods for 8 days, having the shit scared out of you.
Well, I imagine it versus nothing. Denny's is like, yes,
you're
please,
right. Yeah,
give me Denny's.
If I have nothing or Denny's, I will go with Denny's. If I have Denny's and the option of like most 4-star restaurants, I'm probably gonna get a French toast slam.
Yeah. The teeth and the twigs were actually human teeth from the director Eduardo Sanchez's dentist. And that's such a weird play of like Heather finds the teeth and stuff wrapped up and she's like, okay, no, we're just gonna get at it. Like there's teeth. You're trying to write off human bloody teeth and your friend's shirt. Like,
yeah, even just watching in higher quality that they have on HBO Max, it's still kind of hard to see what everything is.
That's what because I asked producer wife, I was like, what is that? Was that forever I thought it was eyeballs.
I see. I thought one was a tongue, and then I kept thinking that did they find teeth somewhere else? but it all just kind of blends together and it doesn't really pop out that much. I go,
It
I guess
looks
there's
bloody. Like
I
we
guess
know
there's some
it's
teeth. Yeah.
body parts, you know. And the hair, I get there's hair in there apparently from what I've read, and it's some of Josh's real hair. So
And some cigarettes because Mike likes to know the Blair Witch gave him a pack of cools.
you know these types of people say they don't say cigarettes, they say smokes.
You
Even
need a
though-
pack of smokes.
Smokes. And the other note that I had is like this was, you know, you would think that nobody would be able to like make a fake thing, but people would think it was real. But you know, it wasn't a, you know, less than 5 years ago or whatever it was when Slender Man was a phenomenon, and like people attempted murder. It was children.
Yeah,
But,
those two little girls tried to kill their other friend because they thought they were gonna please Slender Man and live in his mansion. And it's like, little girls, there's nothing in the lore about Slender Man having a sweet house. You made that up.
And it turns out it was just the house from the Blair Witch.
Yeah,
Not
and
even nice, but it's like that type of thing. And that's not even like actors or anything. That's just like people making pictures with Slender Man in it. Like this stuff still happens. It's different, but it's
Well,
like you could trick. You don't have to trick all of them, but you have to trick some of them.
Well, even if you don't even go the horror aspect, things that go viral now have about a 48-hour period of getting debunked. One of my favorites is there was and because I'm a bad person, whenever somebody has like an anti-bullying thing, there's this little kid, I think he had like maybe dwarfism or something, and he's like crying about like why do they hate? And it turns out he was getting bullied because he was like calling kids the N-word. And then like all the Avengers had to be like, no, you can't come to Disney now. Sorry about that. No. I love those stories because we can get fooled for a little bit, but there are people out there who go out and debunk everything on Reddit or Twitter. And they're like, oh, he was so sad, but he gets like $100,000 in GoFundMe. He gets invited out to Disney by Chris Evans. He's like, I'll be your friend. Then it turns out, oh, his family's super racist. And he was calling everybody. And they're like, nope, never mind. Never mind. Got to do your research.
Why are they treating me shitty when I myself was shitty? It's crazy.
Math do not add up.
And it doesn't even have to be horror or any, like, you know, at the time of this recording, QAnon is still a thing. Yeah. And it could just, things could never come to fruition and people will still do, and that's not even horror related. You just can manipulate people. And it's probably easier from behind a keyboard rather than to make a whole movie.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? And like I said at the very beginning, if Blair Witch came out today, it would be debunked in 20 minutes because they would find them on TikTok or their Instagram posts or something, and it just would not be as effective. It didn't try to be a product of its time, but it very much is a time capsule of the 90s, just in the marketing and what you could get people to believe a movie actually was. Yeah,
it's something that will probably never happen again as far as just believing in, is this real? And that's what you and I are both pro wrestling fans. That's what I love about wrestling is when we all know it's fake, it's not real, it's predetermined.
Yeah.
But every once in a while would be like, that was fake, but I think that thing they did there was real.
Be like, is the Blair Witch a work or a shoot? Are they shooting right now? Is it a shoot? I think that they had scenarios that, but I think the witch really got him at the end. I think the witch wanted that fame.
You know who I thought the witch was you remember those video series called Unforgivable? Go to YouTube and type in Unforgivable. It's just a dude in the woods.
I want my waffle fries.
It's some waffle fries and a Dr. Pepper for free. Like that was a phenomenon back in high school. And it was like, I think I looked up those videos after watching this, and there's a documentary about that guy. But at the time when I saw those, I'm like, this is just a dude in the woods saying funny things, but not selling that it's funny. But there's no other context to it. It's just a guy in the woods yelling. And that's exactly like with the Blair Witch, they give you enough context, but they don't give you everything, you know?
You're like, just the Blair Witch in the corner. Just Mike, stand there and bring me some waffle fries.
Give me that V card.
Uh,
Gavin, I don't know what other thoughts you have, but
I think we've covered a lot of it.
yeah,
Like,
there's
covered
plenty
everything.
of notes, and I have way more notes. But we're just with the podcast can't be longer than the actual movie. You just can't.
As
What
far
are
as I was
Go
gonna say,
ahead.
as far as favorite kills go, this is not a very big a high body count movie.
no?
Because you only have 3 people. But do you have a favorite kill, or is there any kills that you could have in this?
I mean, I think it's just the ending.
Mhm.
That's not a kill, but then you could also say Coffin Rock, where the guys are gutted and laid out and then disappeared later when the
Mhm.
search party comes back. But I think that ending is so. I guess would you call it iconic? Of like you could just have that screenshot and it still looks creepy in black and white.
Mhm. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's super creepy. And then so I think we both agree that like the ending is our favorite kill. And then do you have an oh shit moment?
Was the kids laughing out in the woods, and I don't. It's not even an oh shit. I just love that first part when they're talking to townspeople. I just like
Yeah.
it.
I think for me, it's when the tent starts shaking and they're running in the woods from something.
Yeah,
I think that is my oh shit moment for
and that's
sure.
not even like an elaborate scare. But if you were in a tent in the woods and the tent started shaking, you would just shit your sleeping bag, right? Like,
Yeah, I don't care if it turns out to be an animal or something. Like if something is moving your tent and nobody else is out there, you're gonna piss immediately.
and it's like that's some horror is like only like super scary when you're able to put yourself into it, like because we're all watching a movie and it's not real. But if you're like, if I was in a house and then somebody tried to invade my home,
Mhm.
wow, like what a scary concept. But until that happens, it's just a movie.
Yep. So if you liked Blair Witch Project, what are some movies you would also recommend?
I would say that The Ritual, that's on Netflix,
Mhm.
and the Ritual is not a found footage movie, because there's two types of recommendations I will give people. The Ritual is more based on lore and more like folky type horror that I think the Blair Witch is based on, of the just people in the woods trying to discover what is in the woods. Did you ever see The Ritual?
I did not see The Ritual.
It's really well done. And then all these other ones are found footage.
Mhm.
They don't really have to do with witches or lore. But The Sacrament is one from Ty West.
Mhm.
It's very Jim Jones drink the Kool-Aid type cult movie. Creep is one of my favorite found footage horror movies with Mark Duplass. Lake Mungo is one I
Okay.
saw in the past 2 years, and like it's no exaggeration, one of like the most chilling, scary movies I've ever seen in my life.
Mhm.
And it's found footage documentary style movie. Also, Hell House LLC is fun. It's about a haunted house type thing. Also, Houses October Built is about a haunted house type stuff. And then
That
VHS.
Yeah, the House October built that first one when that little girl comes on the bus or their van or whatever. I was like, nope, get out. You gotta leave.
Yeah. So all those are, besides The Ritual, are found footage movies. And VHS, that's just a whole series. I couldn't,
Yeah.
but if you like, there's something in a VHS movie for you if you like this.
I think I've seen I think there's 4 or 5 VHS movies. I've seen the second one and the latest one, 1994.
Mhm.
Of those two, I think VHS 2 is why they're regarded as like the best one. So I definitely recommend VHS 2. Also Paranormal Activity, of course. I think that's a good one. I think I'm not recommending this based on merit of being good, or I think if you want to see a found footage movie that you're gonna either love or hate, Megan is Missing is a
That was in that
very
documentary, by the way.
Megan is Missing is a movie that I think is terrible. I think it's just a very dumb found footage concept. It has the ending is very disturbing. I will give it that, but I discovered it because everybody on TikTok discovered this 2011 movie for some reason about 2 years ago. And I was like, well, let's check it out. And I was like, this is not good. But you might like it. So Megan is Missing is one. Poughkeepsie Tapes, which I wasn't super fond of. I thought it was a little overrated. But also, and then the final one that I had in my mind that is now gone.
Was it Host?
Host.
We forgot to say Host.
Yes, Host. That is it. Thank you, Brent, for reading my Host. Is probably my favorite of the found footage movies in recent years, because it really takes the found footage concept to the next technological level, with using the pandemic and Zoom calls as a horror premise. And it's just a very great, very scary, short, isolating movie that has a great ending. If you don't like the ending of the Blair Witch, you will love the ending of Host, because it builds and builds and builds, and it gives you that sweet release. You get your nut in Host.
And it's 58 minutes or whatever you said.
Yeah, it's 58 minutes, and the way the timing of it makes perfect sense. They incorporate the timing into the movie itself. So just chef's kiss, love Host. Cannot recommend that one enough.
I think that's it pretty much, right?
I think we have talked. Nobody will ever do another Blair Witch podcast because we have made the definitive one.
This definitive one, yes.
This is the definitive. We scoured Wikipedia and IMDb and shared every fact with you that you'll ever need to know. So if anybody else tries to make a Blair Witch podcast, go, no, they're coming to get you. Did it the best, and you should stop.
And now at this point, Gavin, I'm facing into the corner because they're coming to get you.
Barbara, get out of the corner.
They're coming to get you. They're coming for you, Barbara.
They're coming to get you.